Hello, and welcome to Shades of Pleasure, a podcast celebrating pleasure, sexuality, and the vibrant, inclusive spectrum of love, gender, and relationships. I'm your host, Mo, and with me are my co-hosts, Melissa, Wayne, and Kelly. And together we hope to dismantle tropes that no longer suit us and change the narrative towards more authentic living. Hello. So we're reading in the book club, the last book club this week. We're reading this book called, let me just pull up the name so I don't butcher it. A Black Asexual Lens on Our Sex-Obsessed Culture by Sherronda Brown, Refusing Compulsory Sexuality. And so this, I really want to talk about this specifically as practitioners that work with people around sexuality, sex, and relationships, and like how I think it could be problematic, like our work could be considered problematic if we aren't careful about prescribing or suggesting that everyone should be having sex, and if they have low desire, there's something wrong with them, right? If they have no desire, that there's something wrong with them. Clearly, I come from the camp of fluidity, right? And as a human being who has experienced periods of no desire myself and periods of like insane desire, I know that it's an ebb and flow, right? I know that it's normal. I know that like there are a lot of different variables that can cause us to feel not sexual. But I wonder if I have done any harm around this in my work, because I've been doing this work for so long. And I just thought it would be nice to have a conversation about it. And a little background, there was a therapist once that I believe worked at my practice, and I got wind that this person had told a client who wasn't orgasming essentially that she needed to figure out how to orgasm, right? That there might be something wrong with her if she wasn't orgasming, that she wasn't in her own body, that she wasn't feeling her own, she wasn't like living in her truth or something like that, right? I'm not saying it 100%.
I kind of remember this, Mo. I remember
this. Yeah, and I really like, I remember hearing that. I was like, oh gosh, I gotta be a little bit more careful when I'm working and training and working with my own clients and training up and coming therapists. Like, sexuality is fluid, and we as practitioners need to allow that that the clients, what they're experiencing is normal. The client is the expert, right? And a client may come in saying, hey, I'm not experiencing desire for the last year, for the last 2 years, for the last 10 years, or ever. And at what point do we bring this up? Are we like being harmful if we're helping them try to find that desire when there's in fact this whole spectrum, when they could potentially just be asexual, and that's okay? So that's kind of why I thought this would be a good conversation for us to have.
Yeah, I think two things come to mind for me. First is definitely check out physiological things. You know, if there's something, have you seen a doctor? If it's something that even remotely sounds like it could be physical, you know, that part. But then I guess, you know, how Melissa called it a melly, how Melissa and I are usually sort of like push back. I'm like, well, hold on, wait, maybe we all live in this world. We all swim in this world around sex or sexuality or polyamory or whatever it may be. And I feel like Melissa and I are always kind of pushing back a little bit. And I think I do that. I think I do that with my clients too. And I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about what the position that I get to sit in, because whether it's physicality, sexuality, whether it's relationship style or whatever, I think I really try to push for whatever feels correct to that person, you know, or that couple or that whatever.
And yeah, so, but here's the thing I want to say, Kelly, is like, yes, we can we can for sure do that. But a
Yeah.
lot of our clients are misinformed, right? And if a client comes in, a lot of our clients believe that they're supposed to be sexual,
Yeah.
right? And that is misinformation, right? When we look at sexuality as fluid, when we look at the spectrum, and if we don't give our clients that information, like it's totally normal to be not sexual, especially if you've never felt sexual attraction. Maybe this asexual identifier aligns for you, right? And I guess the conversation is around that, like, do we dismantle this for our clients? And if so, when do we bring that up? I personally think it's really important to bring it up. If someone is in my office and they have no desire, then I need to let people know, like, that's a thing. That
Yeah.
might be a normal thing.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all. And I don't know if I know the exact time. I don't know. I guess it depends on what they come in saying their presenting problem is. Is this something they come in and they're talking about right up front and they think it's a problem? Or is this something that, weeks in, all of a sudden this other thing is introduced? It's like, oh, wait, this was kind of an important piece. I think it just, I don't know. I don't know if I can think of an exact time that I think it's the correct time to do it, but I definitely agree with you that it is something that needs to be in the front of our minds.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I don't know that there is a perfect exact time, but I do think it is important to bring up. And it does make me think about, I think the power of validation, maybe the power of validation in that, um, I think one of the first steps as therapists that we usually take is validating the client's feelings and their experience. And I think in that, it kind of, there's this thing that I guess maybe there's this. I think sometimes you invalidating that maybe there's this possibility. I mean, somebody who might not be a therapist or whatever, I don't know, there might be this possibility of like, oh no, we might miss out on the fact that they do want desire or that they don't want desire, whatever. But it's like, it doesn't matter. It kind of takes away. How am I trying to say? Melissa, get your words together. I think there's power in validating our clients and trusting that that validation and whatever their experience is in the moment will kind of help to, kind of help to guide, will help to get us there to where the client wants to be or needs to be, because we're taking away the pressure to feel or be or any one thing, and we're meeting them where they're at in the moment. And I think when we meet them where they're at in the moment and validate how they feel in the moment, that it will bring up, like, for example, if somebody's saying coming in and feeling like they've been not feeling desiring of sex for X amount of years or whatever, it's like either that validation can be like, oh my gosh, well, thank you. That feels so good. And maybe I don't need to, maybe this is okay and this is normal or whatnot, or it can take them on the path of like, well, thank you for that validation. That feels really good, but I still desire this, and what can we do? So I don't know. I do think that there is something powerful in that at the beginning, and that happens like right at the beginning, right when we first meet our clients, in my experience, at least as a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Wayne.
yeah, I was gonna say something before Melissa started talking, but then she just kind of tied it together.
Well, I mean, if I'll jump in a little bit, I think what I'm feeling out of what everybody's saying and kind of where this is going is there's a great responsibility that we have to be mindful of it and to see if like our own things are getting in the way, or if we're reading what our clients want the most, or and that we're not giving misinformation, or they they do come to us because we do have an expertise in a certain way, and so we just have to be mindful of that and think about what we do with it.
I have a thought around this that um, I think is the issue for me. I've had clients, because they're conditioned with this idea they're supposed to be sexual, that there's something wrong with me. Even when we present the asexual um, continuum, even when we let people know about it, they come in with this preconceived notion. Like, I think the asexual label is highly stigmatized. Like, oh, no, that's not me. That could not possibly be me. I used to be super aroused, right? And something is definitely wrong with me, right? And we have clients that get their hormones tested, like Kelly was saying, like they do all of the medical things because they are convinced something is wrong with them, because these stories are so pervasive, right? Like starting, and I'm specifically talking about assigned female at birth folks, who experience a lot of pressure throughout lifetimes, because I feel like in our culture, male sexuality is centered, right? And male sexuality is also sort of like revered, like that high sex drive is revered, it's supported, it's centered in our culture. And when AFAB people, assigned female at birth, and are, what am I trying to say also? Like when they get this messaging, they start by being sexual, and oftentimes they do it at a young age, i.e. having compulsory sexual relations, right? And that's what's considered compulsory, whether they desire it or not, because they think that they're supposed to, and they think that there's something wrong with them. And in that process, maybe they do find their sexuality. Maybe they do find something that's arousing, or they think that it is, right? Like, I think what comes up for me when I'm reading this book, because they center this idea of compulsory sexuality being a very violent, like this idea that it's violent in our nature, because what I'm talking about, I think, happens to a lot of my clients is some of it is performative, or at least it starts performative. And there's an overlap between emotional desire and physical desire that people can't parse. And I'm talking about AFAB people. And this is probably true for men too, AMAB. And I think how do we help our clients get to that place where they dismantle that performative piece? This isn't about performing anymore. This isn't about what you think you're supposed to want. This gets to be about you, and not by the time you're 50, right? Like, because, yeah, by the time women are in their 50s, women that are my age, maybe even 40s, at that point, women are like, wow, I've been performing for a really long time, right? I've been performing, I did the thing, I have kids, and now they're like, have I ever been sexual? What is actually my sexuality? And so, I think these conversations can start to happen sooner. We see a lot of clients, at least I do, where there's that disparity, right? One partner wants it, the other partner doesn't. But they don't want to call themselves asexual, because the desire exists somewhere. But there's like this overlap, there's performance, there's emotional desire, like it's all convoluted. And how do we help our clients like figure out what's true for them when there's all this pressure? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I didn't interrupt. I was just say that this plays into what we often come around to, that there's a fix my partner, fix the other one, or fix me. And it is that whole fixing thing. So, we talk about that quite a bit, but this definitely shows up that way heavily. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that people come to Los Angeles Sex Therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was pretty. Also, I love when you guys talk about like just checking in with your clients and just asking them, where they learn about sex, like what is their definition of sex, where did it come from, their understanding of sex, and I think that's super helpful as well, because just trying to figure out like, did I learn when I learned sex, did I get all the things about like how I'm supposed to show up, what I'm supposed to do, opposed to taking care of myself, what does that look like? So I think that's, I love when you guys had even helped me to even understand and see that part of it.
Yeah, I'm curious, Mo. I know this isn't about the book, but it inspired this conversation, and you've only read a couple of chapters. But what's
Yeah.
sort of the flavor of it? What's it introducing? What's it bringing up?
So the book, I think I love the intro of the book because it's really leaning into fluidity. The rest of the book really leans into asexuality as an identity and a lot of the stigma around it and helping people really accept the identity of asexuality. That's kind of what I'm gathering from the book. I haven't finished it. But from what I'm understanding, it's not really leaning into this concept of fluidity, which is where I lean as a practitioner, is that our sexuality ebbs and flows throughout life, right? That's sort of my take on it. But that's personal experience, right?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I read a small, very, very, very short excerpt of the book. And to your point, but also to expand on that of like fluidity, like it's not leaning into fluidity, it is leaning into like, more what do you call it? To the identity of asexuality. But I remember in the expert there was a part though that the author was talking about really highlighting that asexuality isn't like what do you call it? Challenging this idea that asexuality isn't about the lack of something. And so while it might not be about leaning into fluidity, it is also really highlighting that asexuality isn't a lack of desire, isn't a lack of pleasure, isn't a lack of sex, isn't a lack of relationship intimacy and all of that stuff, and that it actually, so I don't know. I'm interested to see where you got the not leaning into fluidity, or maybe there's a disconnect on the definition that you and or the author's using, but it did sound like they were saying that, kind of more so highlighting and opening up that asexuality is maybe not fluid in the desire per se, but it is a spectrum. It isn't about lacking. It's about, I guess, like you said, the identity, the choice,
Yeah.
leaning into what your truth is and what your sexuality is, and kind of expanding on that and being more open about that, versus rigid on what that is. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I haven't read it, so I think some people don't want a label. I think I think just understanding what compulsory sexuality is in our culture can be helpful. And maybe when we educate from our particular lens of like how we operate as practitioners. Like I really lean into the idea of fluidity, and like I'll use non-monogamy as an example. Like, Wayne often says like he doesn't like the term consensual non-monogamy. Non-monogamy is non-monogamy, right? You do it, you want to practice it in honest way. Wayne, you have this look on your face like, did I say that?
No, I said ethical non-monogamy.
Oh, ethical non-monogamy.
It's like consensual. Like, no, like I want people to consent.
Okay. You just don't like the term ethical non-monogamy. Yeah. I think it's in the same vein. It's like why some people just the asexual label, even though it's on a spectrum, may not align for them. So I may introduce the concept of fluidity in my practice with my clients to normalize their current state, and also to suggest that like, your sexuality might come back, your desire might come back, right? And it may not, and it may never be what, society tells you it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, what if we talked about this through like the lens of actually if we had a client or if we had a couple that was struggling with this, like where do you think, like, I don't know, let's just sort of like walk through what that may look like. Have any of you ever dealt with
I
that?
I think I would maybe start off. I don't know if this is too specific, but I would start off by inquiring what what sparked what inspired them, what moved them to even seek help? Like why did they reach out? Why are they here? Not Yeah, just not so much like what goals do they want to achieve or what do they but just like what moved you? Why now? Why today? Like why, to get an idea of just again something that you brought up, Mo, was something that you were talking about their truth, and I think that's really valuable in our work with our clients around this, whether it's a couple, individual, or whatnot, especially couples actually, because I think in couples work, I mean, I always like to think that I'm supporting my clients and each of them in kind of connecting to and speaking each of their truths, whether they know them or not, whether that's something we have to like work up to or they're kind of coming in with that. And so, I don't know. I think that question could be really helpful in seeking what that is for them.
Yeah, I always like that idea of like, even if it's just about, whatever they're coming in for, like, why now? How did you know? Because it would be interesting, to even bring in what Wayne was saying, like, how did you even learn about this? Like, is this something that someone has been struggling with forever and they're just now kind of being honest with themselves that they've been faking things their whole life, or have things really changed? Just that whole historical piece of it.
Hmm.
But I don't know that I've ever actually had that scenario.
Which center?
I don't have a lot of experience of anyone identifying as asexual. I mean, I've definitely had people who are going through like a long period of low desire, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience in that area.
Of somebody coming in and already identifying as asexual.
Yeah, or even once we've sort of explored it, ending up there.
Hmm. And so what was the question? Sorry, I'm a little lost.
Oh no, I mean, I'm just, does anyone have experience with that? Because, I think the question that Mo posed at first was like, have we done damage? Are we going to continue to do damage? How do we proceed where we're being mindful of it? Um, and so I guess for my mind, my mind always goes clinical, right? I'm like, okay, what relationally, what's this going to look like in the room? What's it going to look like in their relationship to themselves and their relationship to sex and their, just in their world view? Like, what is this? How is this showing up in their life? And what do we do about it? How do we walk through that process with them in a way
Yeah.
that's not harmful?
I yeah, I don't know that I have an answer, but in saying that, I mean, I think that's the thing is like, and this might not sound profound, but exactly what you're just doing right now, all of those questions, is having questions and kind of um more questions than answers, I think. And so yeah, and more in terms of like the labels, I do think that both and like the labels can be really helpful and it can help for some people. It can be, like a revelation and it can be profound and it's like, oh my gosh, that's me. That fits. Like, whoa, I never knew that. And then for some people it cannot fit right or just doesn't feel good or there's some stigma that comes along with it or whatnot. And so it might not necessarily be helpful. I mean, even just you speaking now and just using like, AFAB and things like that, and me as a experienced, therapist and sex positive therapist, it can be a little bit sometimes like, wait, hold on, what is that? Okay, make sure, what does that mean? And do we have the right definition? Um, so I agree with you in that asexuality, the label of it can maybe not be a good fit or it can be a good fit, but so I don't know that it's necessarily harmful, but I don't know. It's an exploration. It's a you know, it's a journey, it's an exploration. And I think again, just having somebody be there present with you who has a little bit of education, who has kind of a, as best as they can, expanded viewpoint on sexuality can be helpful in and of itself, and not getting caught up in like this very rigid, like we gotta help our client figure this out.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, I think I don't know if it's gonna come out right, but I think she's just helped me out little bit from what I was saying earlier. I think that's what, like, there's a lot of buzzwords, and I think that people who on social media, they get a hold of these buzzwords and they misuse them, and they use them in ways that can be hurtful, unhealthy. And I think that this is what yeah. So when it comes to like people who are trained and professionals, they're able to help give those words context and really help to kind of unpack some things and really help a client to understand, opposed to just having a word and just self-diagnosing, like, oh yeah, I'm this thing because I heard it on all these different platforms. So yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say earlier.
I think a good question could be like, okay, well, say it's like trying different things on, you know, it's like, okay, say you are asexual or you're not asexual or whatever. Like, how would your life be different? You know, how would that serve you? Or like, how do you, yeah, what then would your life be like if say this were true or whatnot? Because maybe it's not even specifically, you know, about that. Maybe we get stuck on the, you know, identifying the sexual identity, but it's like, what about how that supports your life or impacts your life or changes your life, or how will your life be different? Because I feel like that's really
Yeah.
where the juice is, you know? It's like you've come in because somehow maybe you feel like you're not your, I don't know, quote unquote, best self or your whatever. And so it's like, try any one of these on. And then how do you think your life might be different?
Yeah, and I can imagine one way in which it would be scary is that it would possibly lead to isolation. Either you don't have desire any longer, and therefore your relationship is going to change, or you see, these what the world is screaming at us in a bunch of different ways. Like, am I ever going to have that kind of thing? And it possibly could. Like, if you felt that you were asexual and that was going to stand in the way of you having the kind of relationships you wanted to have, that would be a really scary thing, that it would almost seem like, oh, wait, I got to fix this.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me think about too how like, you know, grief work is a huge part, I think, of a lot of the therapy that we do, you know. And that can be grieving, you know, an identity, grieving ideas, grieving beliefs, grieving, you know, which from changes in our life and whatnot. And so, as much as there is like this discovery work or even this like finding answers work or whatnot, there's also, you know, acceptance work and grief work. And that's probably a huge part of like a bigger part of the work a lot of times too, is not like adding things in, but I don't know, doing the work to accept like what we've lost or whatnot. So
I love that take, Melissa. I think that we need to incorporate this in our training. That a lot of it is grief work. So many people come in, and in my life, people talk to me about this kind of stuff because they know that this is the type of work I do. So I have friends on a regular basis that talk to me. And a lot of times it isn't about not feeling desire. It's about not feeling desired, right? Like their partners that they've chosen haven't desired them, or they feel like they're lacking in this area, even though they're partnered, or even though they have multiple partners. A friend of mine has multiple partners, and literally every person that she is in relationship with doesn't doesn't really have a sex drive or something like that. And so like um she's like in a continuous state of like grieving that, right? And I think that's why I get into the astrology work, because I'm like, what's going on in someone's life that like they keep choosing these partners, or and I digress a little bit, but I think that like what you're talking about really resonates, is like the grief that people feel when they don't measure up to what society tells them they're supposed to measure up to, or they don't measure up to what society says like everybody else is experiencing, right? Like I'm in this open relationship and I have multiple partners, and still with that, I'm like feeling deprived is the wrong word, but like neglected, or
just
maybe
undesired, unwanted. I mean, yeah, that grief
undesired and wanted,
really,
yeah.
that grief piece really struck me too. The grief and acceptance part, because I do think that's a huge part of what we do.
And how do we bring that in? Because here's the thing, people come into our practice, we're pleasure based, we celebrate sexuality, all versions of sexuality, and we have to acknowledge the grief, right? And that's hard. Yeah. Because there is so much shame.
Yeah. I almost feel like the introduction of that is a little bit easier, because there are those questions of like, how is this showing up in your life? How does this hurt you? Or what, do you there? I mean, I think there are a lot of ways to bring that in, because people can tell you how terrible things are, right? They can tell you what's going wrong and what makes them sad and all of that. But then to like really, I think it's easy to bring that part in. And I think that is a good way to go about it, because I'm imagining that would really give someone a space to just like release all of that and really get in touch with that side of it. Like, yeah, this is causing me a lot of pain, and these are the ways in which it's standing in my way of, a fulfilling, joyful life. And then the acceptance, that's a harder one, because if somebody does want to change or does think it needs to be different, I think acceptance is really hard.
Especially if they're in the relationship, right? Like, I think the acceptance of asexuality might be easier if you're in a situation where there's no expectation of you. But let's say you're in a relationship and you want that relationship, and you have committed yourself to this relationship, and in that you found that there's no desire, like, no, there has to be, I've got to be able to fix this, right? I have to, because if I don't, what does that mean? All right, if I lean into this asexuality label, is my partner going to leave me? Is my marriage null and void? And I talk about a lot of reasons that people can lose their sexuality. Like, for one example that I use often, and that I use with clients that are newly become mothers, because for some reason I see this is where I see it the most, right? That first year, and Melissa, you can speak to this as the mother in the room. That first year of after you have a baby is so common. I see it all the time. You lose your desire, right? And sometimes it can go on for multiple years. Yes, postpartum depression is one way to talk about it, but I also believe that there is this like connection that you're building and bonding with the baby, and that takes a lot of energy from the body. And sometimes it's the same energy, right? It's that intimacy energy. And so I see that a lot of women who have young children don't have that desire that they used to have. And they think that there's something wrong with them. And then we've got labels like postpartum depression, which fine. But also, like, you're nursing a child. You are bonding with a little human being that you grew in your belly, right? Like, and your partner that did that is not having that same experience with you, so they're over here feeling maybe a little bit neglected, maybe they need a little bit more connection, and you're giving it to the baby. Like, I think, like, I think that is something that is not talked about enough in our work, is that it's almost the same energy that you give to your children, that maternal instinct that can sometimes replace desire and can take time for that to reintegrate. And when it comes back, I think that it probably comes back in a very different way. I don't know if you all want to jump in on that. Personal or clients,
It just made me think of like, it's kind of like looking at it from a lens of like how we view monogamy. And so if it's bonding with that one person, that child, and it takes the place of the other relationship. So it's like that, almost like I can't do both. Like it's one or the other, kind of like what came to me when I was thinking about that. And then also I thought about, just the grieving period. It goes back to what Melissa always talks about, is that fear of that change and that shift. What am I like if we talk about this, or I lean into it, or we actually go through it, then what am I losing, or what's going to change or shift? Because like you said, I think it was Kelly said, is my partner going to leave me? Like, yeah, that's scary.
So scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were super sexual one time, and now you've got a baby.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing up that example, Mo, and I could definitely relate for sure. And actually, just listening to you made me think, actually gave me a new perspective on my experience, a new, I think, language on my experience that I haven't landed on. So thank you. And that was that, at least for me, I'll say this, I think it's not that I lost the desire for sex. I think it was just redirected, like you said, it was just, it went into the baby, it went into myself, it went into, my body, caring for my body. It was now, more, it shifted more into intimacy, in a different way. And like desire is, and desire for sex. And then we specified even more desire for penetrative sex and desire for orgasm. Like that's just one tiny, 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 tiny little piece of sexuality. And so if we can like remind our clients of like our sexuality versus, our desire for sex, which is valid, our desire for sex is valid. But hopefully, like, we can just be kinder to ourselves and see more possibilities or have more acceptance and, all that stuff. And yeah, when we can kind of look at it like that in a different way. And also, this might be a side tangent. This might take us into like another possible, I don't know, topic for later. But you were asking, like you were saying, doing more of the grief work and training and in our work. And I do think, Mo, you're getting more, you've gotten more into astrology, I guess, over the years. And, I've been kind of exploring, I don't know, other paths outside of traditional talk therapy, of what, I'm interested in and whatnot. And I don't really have a word for it, and I'm sure there is a word for it, but I do think there's some value in like, let's just, I don't like using this word, but let's just say spiritual work, but I really think it's like heart-centered work or intuitive work or things like that, isn't clinical based or isn't medically based, but there's such a need for. And I think a lot of, in my perspective, these practitioners or these, mentors or guides or whatever, coaches, I think I just like to think of it that they're, experienced in life. They're like experienced in the themes of life or whatnot. And of course, we bring those themes clinically into our work. But they take a more intuitive, a more holistic, a more like experiential approach to things versus like talk therapy or, intellectualizing or whatnot. And so, why did I bring this up? Um,
And I like to also use like the term ancestral, right? Like I think
mhm.
that like a lot of what happened in colonialization is there was a lot of like really focusing on medicalizing these types of things, whereas like I think a lot of intuitive work is we've been colonized to not believe in astrology. We've been
Right.
colonized to not trust um you use the word spirituality, but like to trust our intuition, right? Like
Exactly.
to only trust science. And like and that's, we've got our licenses and we're all sort of like, and I love that you do this, Melissa. Like you were like, screw this, you know, and I have a group practice that with a lot of people that have their licenses. So I'm not in that same like fluid place as you, but I feel that too. Like I've felt strongly around that. And that's why I have coaches at the practice, because I don't believe that we need to, um, I don't believe in academia anymore. And I don't want to get because a lot of it has been whitewashed, so tremendously whitewashed, and has been so harmful to people that yes, I do astrology and I say it loudly and proudly now because it's the things that they don't want us doing, right? It's the thing that they've told us not to do.
Mhm.
So so yeah, yay to you and me.
Yay.
I know. Mo tried to talk me out of it. When I was going back to grad school, she was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, you do it the other way, and you're already so good in this way and that way." And I was like, "No, Mo, I need to." Now I'm like, God, dog it. The I'm still paying off student loans. And I disagree
Mm.
so much with some of the licensing board for the exact reasons that Mo's telling me now. I just didn't get it
Yeah.
done.
But Kelly, you don't take insurance. Like you've also sidestepped a lot of the system, right? Like the insurance stuff that both Melissa and I have gotten sucked into. Um, while it keeps us accessible to people that couldn't afford us otherwise, it does keep us like one foot stuck in the medical, with diagnosing and things like that. And Kelly, you haven't done any of that. So I think that, I think all of us we have this like desire to do this work outside of the structure
Mhm.
that
Well, I
they've
think we talked about it here. All of us do things that are pretty non-traditional. I
yeah
mean, I still keep it within the legal and ethical, but I push right up to the edge of what they consider it because I'm just like, oh, maybe
yeah
that's helpful that way. That's not
yeah
helpful. It's fine. I don't want to do it that way. So I
Exactly.
think that's
yeah
what you're kind of talking about, the
Yeah.
heart-centered stuff, Melissa.
Exactly. And
yeah
working for last, I think, is a great place, is the best place to come. And, yeah, because and having a mentor like Mo and Kelly and, others is like we have the freedom here to like feel, explore, discover those edges, like you said, Kelly. And also, sometimes it was two thoughts. One, sometimes some of us are meant to work in the system that we don't feel is working because we're like the safer spaces, within the system. Sometimes we kind of have to work within to kind of change it and to fix it to do different, to show different, because we're still kind of all living in it. And I think you do that amazingly, Kelly. And then also, I went into grad school to become a therapist, knowing that I was not going to be a therapist at some point. So, Kelly, yeah. Sometimes it was just a stepping stone for me. I knew that's just what I needed for myself, to trust, believe myself, to accomplish it for myself or whatnot, to see myself, to connect with you all amazing people. And so, yeah.
it was a stepping stone for all of us. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I don't publicly like announce this very often, but I don't consider myself a therapist, anymore. I really consider myself someone that provides resources for people that want to do this work.
Mm.
I'm a resource provider, more than,
You're the center of the wheel for all of us spokes. Like we're all the spokes on the wheel, and you're the center of it.
I don't have that many clients. I don't actually do this work one-on-one that much anymore. I do have a handful of clients still, and a lot of my old clients do pop back up, and I'm here to support them. But um, I'm here to support, folks like Kelly and Wayne who are really passionate about doing this one-on-one work.
Yeah. But I do think that the whole, if you want to call it an industry, is changing and is being pushed forward. I mean, even if we just look at the DSM, as much as I've really disliked a lot of it, at least it's changed. I mean, the year I was born, being gay was a mental whatever. What are you laughing about over there, Mo?
Melissa just, she like cocked her head to the side and like her bun hit Wayne in the face and Wayne went.
That's funny.
And Wayne was like, whoa, what was that?
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it was the cutest
I
thing.
missed it.
It was just like so classic of a couple that's been together forever. Like, oh man, you hitting me with your bun? What's going on, woman? Wayne, you look tired.
I am. I was up late last night, like to about 3 or so. I'm trying to create these ebooks, because so much you guys have said today, it's just kind of like what's been on my mind around. Like, I think that, like Melissa said, the work that we do is so intuitive, and I think that it just frustrates me now that I see all these people who are just talking heads and just using the words because they learn some words and they use them in a way that aren't really helpful. And I just appreciate, like, I look at the people that you bring into Last and I'm like, wow, these people are really good. Like, man, this is what when I think about type of work when people need or type of help that people need, I think about people at Last, and so I'm so thankful for just who you are and just the type of people that you bring into your circle and who I get to meet and get to be around. And, I like I said, I think so highly of you, Melissa, Kelly, like, yeah. So, but it's just in line with what my thoughts are already, like a lot of the things you guys are talking about right now.
You really, I think you've brought it up 3 times. This is really kind of getting under your skin, huh? People that are sort of just influencers that are throwing out diagnoses and throwing out, and look, I think in a way it's really nice when people hear, someone else who has tics and hears about their experiences with them and things like that. So in a way, I think it is destigmatizing some things. I think it's normalizing some things. And I think some people are super irresponsible with it. And so I see both sides of it, but that's really under your skin right now, isn't it, Wayne?
Yeah, because I just think that, for me, it's like I have people around me who listen to some of these people, and I know what type of person they are. I'm like, oh my God, like really, dude, that's who you choosing to listen to, like, and so, but then I see how it affects because it's right, like we're all connected. So if they're going into the world with this idea of how it's supposed to be, when I think that's when I see that's off, they're affecting the people around them, right? So it's like a kind of like a domino effect. And so I always try to encourage people. I send people to Last. I send people to podcasts. I send people to people I listen to, so it can really try to help influence like the direction of things, and like the people that are really here who are intuitive, who can really help you and understand nuances of not just giving you a label, but understanding like where that label comes from and how it affects you.
Yeah, Wayne, I think that I've experienced, I think you're ready to write your book. Because I think that like, I know you do a lot of public speaking, but I think you need, like, we can talk about this offline because obviously that's probably not part of the podcast, but like, it's time for you to write your book.
May as well start plugging it now. This is a
Yeah.
plug.
This is Wayne. Everybody look out for Wayne's book because it's coming, and I'm gonna help him get it out there. Because
I would love that.
Yeah, I think that you have a lot of really great stuff that you need to share. And you're ready to. And I think that like public speaking and stuff, you do a lot of it now, but I think once you have it all in a book, it's going to be so concise that you're going to be able to take that book and use that as your talking points.
And Mo, I'm so glad that you said that because he's been working on ebooks and he's set up late to work on ebooks, but no ebook. Like you need a book.
You need a book. And like you left that review on last week and it was so well written. I was like, there's Wayne's voice. Like I heard it. Like I hear you every day, you know, and here and talking with you. But like it was so concise in your writing that I was like, oh, okay, Wayne's voice needs to be like on paper.
Yeah. And what
So
better
everybody,
help to have?
Yeah, I agree.
everybody look for Wayne's book. 2027.
Oh, writing the forward.
Mo writing the forward.
Kelly writing the afterward.
Kelly right at the afterward.
And Melissa's picture in the back.
Just a special thanks is good for
Yeah.
me.
Or yeah, just a special thanks. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, look at that.
Oh God, I gotta
Productive.
go.
Yep.
All right, y'all. This was
Don't mean it.
beautiful. Love you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Shades of Pleasure podcast is currently unsponsored and is brought to you by Los Angeles Sex Therapy and Last Collective in partnership with Shades Therapy and Shades of Non-Monogamy. To support our endeavor so we can continue to bring this pleasurable content, please visit our Substack at pleasureforthemasses.substack.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time.